Hello and welcome. Today we're going to explore an idea that is both simple and deeply profound. It's an idea that challenges a common feeling many of us experience, the feeling of weakness, the feeling that we are somehow failing ourselves, that we lack strength or willpower. But what if I told you that you're not weak? What if I told you that the real problem isn't weakness but distraction? This is a philosophical journey into how our attention works, why we get pulled away from our goals, and how understanding distraction can transform the way we see ourselves. So let's begin by looking at what it means to be weak in the first place. In everyday language, when someone says, "I'm weak," they often mean they feel unable to do something important. Maybe they can't stick to a habit, or they give up easily when faced with difficulty. We think of weakness as a kind of moral failing, a lack of character or determination. But philosophy offers us a different way to think about this. The ancient Greek philosopher Socrates believed that people do wrong not because they want to be bad, but because they lack knowledge. In his view, if we truly understood what is good for us, we would always choose it. This is called the unity of virtue. So according to Socrates, weakness is really ignorance, not knowing what is truly best for us. From this perspective, being weak is not a failure of willpower, but a failure of understanding. Fast forward to the modern era. Psychologists and philosophers today suggest that what we call weakness is often distraction. Our minds are constantly pulled in many directions by worries, desires, fears, and the endless flow of information around us. When we try to focus on a task or a goal, it's not that we lack strength. It's that our attention is split, scattered, and not fully present. Imagine trying to fill a bucket with water while someone keeps shaking it. The water will spill and the bucket will never fill. Our attention is like that bucket. When we are distracted, our energy leaks out and we don't achieve what we want. But this is different from weakness. It's about managing where our attention goes. The philosopher William James, often called the father of American psychology, said that the greatest weapon against stress is our ability to choose one thought over another. Welcome back. In the first part, we discussed how feeling weak is often a result of distraction rather than a lack of strength. We also introduced the idea that our attention is like a bucket that can easily spill when disturbed. Now, in this second part, we will dive deeper into understanding distraction itself, how it works, why it's so powerful, and how it affects our daily lives. To begin, it's important to recognize that distraction is not simply about losing focus occasionally. It is a complex process involving the way our brains handle information and how we prioritize what demands our attention. Our brains are wired to notice what's new or urgent because this was critical for survival in earlier times. For example, noticing a sudden movement or an unexpected sound could mean danger. This instinct makes us naturally alert to interruptions. However, in our modern world, this survival mechanism often works against us. Instead of reacting to real threats, our brains respond to endless notifications, messages, advertisements, and social media updates. These constant interruptions fragment our attention and make it difficult to concentrate on long-term goals. The philosopher Byung-Chul Han calls this phenomenon the fatigue of the self, where the self becomes exhausted from trying to keep up with every distraction. Understanding distraction as a natural but overwhelming response helps us see that it's not a personal flaw. It is a challenge created by the environment we live in. Our phones, computers, and even the layout of our workplaces are designed to capture our attention and pull it away from what truly matters. When we resist this constant pull, it can feel like a battle, but it's important to remember that we are not weak for struggling. We are human. So how does distraction affect our lives beyond just making us less productive? It influences our emotions, our relationships, and our sense of self. When we are distracted, we may feel anxious, restless, or disconnected. We might find ourselves overwhelmed by tasks because we never fully engage with any one thing. Philosophers like Heidegger spoke about being in the world, meaning that our true experience comes from fully inhabiting the present moment. Distraction pulls us out of this presence, making us mere spectators rather than active participants in our own lives. Moreover, distraction can deepen feelings of inadequacy. When we compare our scattered efforts to others' polished successes on social media, we might feel we are failing or weak. But this comparison ignores the complexity of distraction and its effects. It's important to remember that behind every success there is focus, patience, and oftentimes struggle with distractions. Now let's look at some practical ways to recognize when distraction is taking over. First, notice your body and mind. Are you feeling restless or tense? Are your thoughts jumping rapidly from one thing to another? Are you frequently checking your phone or multitasking without finishing anything? These are signs that your attention is scattered. Second, try to identify what triggers your distractions. Is it a certain environment, a specific emotion, or a particular activity? For example, some people get distracted when they feel bored or anxious, while others are pulled away by digital notifications. Understanding these triggers helps you take steps to minimize them. Third, create space for focus. This can mean turning off notifications, setting specific times for checking emails or social media, or designing your environment to reduce interruptions. Even small changes can make a big difference because they reduce the competition for your attention. But simply avoiding distractions is not enough. We also need to strengthen our ability to return our focus gently when distractions happen. This is where mindfulness and meditation practices come into play. By training ourselves to notice when we have drifted away and to bring our attention back without judgment, we build a kind of mental muscle. This muscle is not about force, but about patience and kindness towards ourselves. Philosophy teaches us that self-compassion is key to growth. If we beat ourselves up for being distracted, we only increase stress and fragmentation. Instead, when we accept distraction as a natural part of being human, we create a more peaceful relationship with our mind. This acceptance opens the door to real change. Finally, consider how distraction can sometimes be a signal rather than a problem. When we notice our attention wandering, it might be telling us something important, like a need for rest, a desire for deeper engagement, or unresolved emotions. Paying attention to these signals can guide us toward a more balanced and meaningful life. To sum up this part, distraction is a natural, powerful force shaped by both our biology and the environment we live in. It affects much more than our productivity. It touches our emotions, relationships, and sense of self. Recognizing distraction, understanding its triggers, and cultivating gentle focus through mindfulness and self-compassion are crucial steps in overcoming the feeling of weakness. In the final part, we will explore how to build lasting habits to protect and nurture your focus. how philosophy offers timeless wisdom on attention and strength, and how you can create a life where distraction no longer feels like a prison but a challenge you can overcome. Thank you for being here with me. Remember, you're not weak. You're simply distracted, and that distraction can be managed and transformed. Welcome to the final part of our exploration. So far, we have seen that feeling weak is often a result of distraction rather than a lack of true strength. We have understood how distraction works, why it pulls us away from our goals, and how it impacts our lives deeply. Now, let's focus on how we can build lasting habits to protect our attention and develop true inner strength. Building focus and overcoming distraction is not about trying harder in a harsh or forceful way. It's about creating an environment both outside and inside ourselves that supports attention naturally. One important step is to simplify. The philosopher Henry David Thoreau famously advocated for simplicity in life, suggesting that we should simplify. When our lives are cluttered with too many commitments, gadgets, and worries, our minds become cluttered too. Simplifying means choosing fewer things but with more care and presence. Another practical step is to design your daily routine with focus in mind. Set aside specific blocks of time for deep work. Times when you turn off your phone, close unnecessary tabs, and tell yourself that distractions will wait. This is sometimes called time blocking, and it helps your brain get into a rhythm where focus becomes easier. Over time, your mind will start to expect these moments of calm, and your ability to concentrate will grow stronger. Philosophers throughout history have reflected on the relationship between strength and attention. For example, the Stoics, ancient philosophers like Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus, taught that true strength lies in controlling what is within our power, especially our thoughts and judgments. They understood that external events are often beyond our control, but our attention and response are ours to choose. This Stoic wisdom reminds us that distraction often arises when we let our attention wander into worries about things we cannot change. Strength comes from bringing our focus back to the present moment, where our true power lies. Along with external habits, inner habits matter just as much. One such inner habit is cultivating patience with yourself. When you find yourself distracted, instead of frustration, try to respond with gentle curiosity. Ask yourself, why is my mind wandering? What does it need right now? This practice transforms distraction from an enemy into a guide. Sometimes a wandering mind is telling you that your body needs a break, or that your heart is troubled. By listening carefully, you become more in tune with yourself and better able to focus when it counts. It's also helpful to remind yourself of your deeper why. Why do you want to focus? What goals or values are behind your efforts? Philosophy encourages us to live intentionally, which means aligning our daily actions with what matters most to us. When your attention is connected to a meaningful purpose, it becomes easier to resist distractions that pull you away from that purpose. Now let's talk briefly about technology, since it plays such a huge role in distraction today. Technology itself is neutral. It's how we use it that matters. Setting clear boundaries, such as scheduled times to check emails or social media, and turning off non-essential notifications can reclaim your attention. Some people find it helpful to create technology-free zones or times during the day to disconnect and recharge. This practice helps restore balance and gives your mind space to breathe. In addition, consider the role of rest and renewal. Our brains cannot focus well if they are tired or overwhelmed. Philosophy and science both agree that rest is essential for strength. The ancient Greeks celebrated leisure not as laziness but as time for reflection and growth. So allow yourself regular breaks, restful sleep, and moments of quiet contemplation. These nourish your mind and make focus sustainable. Finally, remember that overcoming distraction is a lifelong practice, not a quick fix. Just like physical strength builds over time with consistent effort, mental focus develops slowly and steadily. Every time you notice distraction and gently return your attention, you are training your mind, you are growing stronger. This growth is often invisible at first, but with patience it becomes unmistakable. In closing, you are not weak. You are living in a world designed to scatter your attention, and your struggles with distraction are natural. Philosophy offers us the wisdom to understand this challenge deeply and the tools to face it with kindness and patience. By simplifying your life, creating supportive habits, cultivating inner patience, and connecting with your deeper purpose, you can transform distraction from a source of frustration into an opportunity for growth. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Remember, you are stronger than you think. You are not weak. You are simply distracted. And distraction can be managed, healed, and turned into focus.